Hey, welcome back to the Isaac Jarnagin podcast. Today I talked to Robbie Wheeler. Robbie Wheeler is a creative director based in Nashville. He partners with labels to kind of coordinate their album drops and just the overall vibe of it and stuff like that. Honestly, really cool stuff. Robbie talked about how he went from having his college shutting down on him to getting into a role like this. We also talked about just general photography, creativity mixed with social media, how he got into it, some of his life experiences. A lot of good stuff out of this talk. Get right into it. Hey, Robbie, how you doing, bro?
Doing well. How about you?
So good, man.
It's great to finally get to chat.
Yeah. We've both been around the space for a while, but never really dove into each other. So it's nice to finally have an excuse to talk to you.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
Love it. What are you up to right now, man?
Yeah, I doing a lot of concert work in Nashville, photography-wise, and trying to figure out what's next as far as touring, sort of in that creative space. So
Yeah. So I know in your bio you've had like Nashville and New York. What's your balance between the two locations and where are you at primarily right now?
yeah, so I graduated from high school, went to college in New York City, and then funny enough, my school ran out of money and closed. And so I ended up moving back to Nashville, and I'm just working here full time now.
Gotcha. You grew up in Tennessee?
Yeah, I went to high school here, but grew up sort of all over. Lived in just south of London in England for a year, which was a great experience. And yeah, then moved to Nashville sort of freshman year of high school.
Yeah. What was the draw to London, or not London, but England?
Yeah, so my dad was working there at the time. And yeah, it was a great experience. Got to meet a ton of really cool people and got to travel a lot of Europe. And yeah, I think it definitely changed the way that I view the world and yeah,
What
everything
age was
around
that?
us. I was 15, I believe. So I lived there for sort of that year of my life.
Yeah. When did you kind of start? Obviously I know you for obviously your photo work. When did you get started with a camera?
Yeah, so I'd always sort of been interested in photography. My dad sort of had a camera when I was younger, but never really picked one up. And then when I went to Scotland for my 14-year, I took like a birthday trip, went to Scotland and just took like an iPhone 4 and had fun taking photos on that thing. And the photos were just horrible. But yeah, and then after that, it was sort of my gap year. I took a gap year after high school. COVID hit, and I bought my first camera. And yeah, it sort of took off from there.
Dude, that's sick. And you've been keeping up with that from now. What are you doing? You said you're working in Nashville. What are you up to with work-wise?
Yeah, so a ton of musicians are here in Nashville, and so I'm primarily doing sort of creative direction for different albums. So about to get started on one for a buddy. And yeah, so I pretty much album covers, music videos. I either shoot or oversee those and just sort of the duration of the album process. Yeah, I sort of take the creative side of it away from the label in a sense.
Yeah. Is that under your name, or are you working on behalf of like an agency, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I'm independently contracted through the label. So you get hired by the label to do sort of an album at a time. Yeah, so it sort of opens you up to work with different types of artists, sort of depending on who you're interested in working with and who's interested in working with you. So
Right. That takes the stress off that, the label has connections. So you kind of bounce off each project from there. That's probably really nice.
yeah, but then as far as like the touring side goes, it's all connections. So you sort of have to know the artist in order to get on their tour. They don't just sort of want anybody. They want someone who they can trust. And so that part is a little bit harder, but it's definitely fun hitting the road.
Yeah. Have you always been in, growing up kind of in and out of Nashville, have you always kind of been interested in the music industry itself, or is that something that just kind of was an opportunity that you saw fruit in?
Yeah, it was more of just, never really thought I'd end up in this space, but I moved back. When I moved back, I reached out to a couple buddies who we just had friends in common who were musicians, and sort of through meeting them, I was introduced to a ton of other musicians, and I was like, oh, this is a great way to make money, and these are cool guys to be around. And so I just sort of ran with it. It doesn't fit sort of the style that I would always want to be shooting, but it's a great way to make a living.
Yeah. Right when I got my first camera to shoot photos of my shirts when I was running like a clothing brand in high school, which was my first out. And that's kind of where I got started with, loving photography for photography itself. And I'm pretty sure we have pretty similar people we look up to in the photography space. I've seen you reposting Joe Greer a lot, which is someone that I just love the style of. I got his photo book over here, whatever that one's called. Who are some of your favorite people in the photography space?
Yeah, Joe is definitely one of them. What photo book do you have? Do you have the Lay of the Land or
yeah,
I Love You?
The Lay of the Land. So my cousin had a copy that had damage on the left corner of it, so he got sent another one, so he gave me the one with the damage, and I'm like, yo, this is the sickest book ever. I don't care if it's damaged.
Oh, it's such a beautiful book. Funny enough, we lived in Brooklyn, and then he moved to Nashville. So now we're both in Nashville together. He lives about 30 minutes south of me. And the other day, put on his Instagram story that he had an extra book of the New York City I Love You of street photographs. So I went down and met him and picked up the book. He gave me a book and signed it. So that was really fun.
Really? That was in the last few weeks, you said?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. So I've enjoyed looking through that. I love street photography. Living in New York City was great for that. And even Nashville, we have Broadway. It's about 5 blocks, so it's pretty small, but on the weekends it's usually hopping. So yeah.
When did you kind of get into that style of getting into street photography? Because that's kind of like you're doing it because you love it. It's kind of hard to monetize that.
Yeah, and that's sort of why I ended up working with musicians. But it's definitely I living in New York City, people are always like, oh, what's it like and whatnot. And one way that I love to explain it is just by showing them photographs from the street, just here's a dude in a suit and here's someone in a, big inflatable costume. It's just, you never know what you're going to see. And I think that's just super beautiful. And so I love sort of that, capturing the mundane and also sort of the unlikely on the street is super cool. Everything's, you're never going to get the same photo twice. So I think that's super cool. But that is one thing that does bug me is some people be like, oh, you're like the next Joe Greer. And what people don't realize is a ton of my photos that I had up from way back, 2014, years before I knew who Joe Greer was, I did the white borders on just garbage photos. And so it's an honor to be thrown in that same sort of bucket, but at the same time it's I feel like my work is different enough, especially because how are you going to copy or imitate someone whose style is so unique? And he shoots most of his stuff on film. So yeah, definitely someone I look up to. Also Willem Verbeek, another dude. Also those film YouTuber guys definitely sort of nerd out over that stuff.
Yeah, but I dove deep into the film photography, especially YouTube space. Just every creator you run into is so unique and cool, and they all talk through their processes, and it's so sick.
Yeah, how about you? Who do you sort of look up to? Who do you enjoy checking out?
Yeah, well, in the photography space, definitely like I love seeing uploads. You know, I went through my subscriber list and unsubscribed to a ton, but the one kid that stayed on was Willem, just because it's just so peaceful, just having a dude such dedicated to the craft of photography and having so much to say about just like going on a trip and those experiences, and then having it document and put it on YouTube in a really chill format's really cool. Um, Samuel Elkins. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, he shoots a ton of Fujifilm, maybe
Yeah.
digital work. Yeah, he's his colors are beautiful. I think he's in LA, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. He just moved to LA. He grew up in Pacific, or like Washington,
Okay.
Northwest, whatever they call that area. But so beautiful. Who else is in there? Corey Wolfenbarger.
Yeah, he's from Knoxville,
Yep.
Knoxville, Tennessee. Yep.
He's another Tennessee guy. You don't see him posting too much, but obviously when he does, it's always good stuff. I recently just had the opportunity to travel over to the Grand Tetons, Wyoming, and I was standing in front of the Molten Barn, obviously, like just easily one of the most photogenic places ever.
Yep. Oh my goodness, I'm so jealous.
Yeah. And then somehow I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go see Corey's photo of the Molten Bar, and I'm scrolling through his feed as I'm in front of it, tapped on it, the first Molten Barn photo that I saw of his, and I commented years before, like, oh my gosh, this makes me want to go to the Molten Barn, and then it's like just so surreal because I'm just staying in front of it. I mean, all those guys,
how that happens.
yeah, all those guys are so inspirational without even trying. They're just proud of their work. I love it.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you've heard, there's a company called Moment, and they do like lessons. And so I got the Joe Greer lesson, his very first one, I think, that he did on there, and it was all sort of Grand Tetons area, and it's like 3 hours of just knowledge and plus like beautiful photos. And I don't know that I learned a whole bunch in that thing, but it was probably the most enjoyable couple hours I've ever spent in front of my computer.
Right. I mean, it's hard to teach, you know, photography. It's a weird thing, and everyone has their own style. And going back to like you getting compared to Joe Greer, I feel like that's what people kind of say that aren't as deep into the photography scene, because it's like easy to like see two photos and compare them, but like when you really dive into it, every single person's style is unique, and everyone's taking 5 or 10 inspirational artists that they see and putting it into their own thing. So it's really easy to compare if you don't know what you're talking about, but when you really look at different photography, it's all different and unique.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's super easy to do with like sports of like photography or videography. But then I don't know, I sort of view it as all the same. And then you sort of get in there and look at sort of how they edit differently. And yeah, there are so many differences. And yeah, I don't know, I think my admiration for sort of the sports photography world has changed over the last year or so.
Yeah. Have you ever had an opportunity to get into sports photography or anything?
No, not really. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe sitting out on the turf of a football field maybe isn't as appealing, but I feel like if I was given sort of creative control and I could sort of shoot it the way that I would want to document sort of the sports world, I'd probably bite at it and give it a shot. But yeah, I don't know if it's for me. I think it could be cool.
Yeah. Oh, my thought towards it is if I can if I can go there for one game and just be like, oh my gosh, it's Isaac, he's got his style, let him do his thing, I'll do it. It'd be fun. But to get into that world, you have to be through an organization, you have to be a part of the system. You know, you gotta make sure you get the shots, and I'm not willing to do that. So
Yeah, there are a couple people we met on that group chat, and there are a couple people in there who are just insanely talented in the sports world. And yeah, it's been fun watching them thrive and sort of do their thing. yeah, tons of respect.
Well, the people I think of went hard at that and excelled at it even in high school. So like they thrived in that world of like building up and finding the opportunities where I just don't as much.
Yeah.
One surreal moment, seeing Josh too, who's doing UNC stuff. Maybe not so much anymore. I haven't seen much of that recently, but I saw his photo of Taylor Fritz, the tennis player.
Yeah.
The only reason I know that name, I don't know the tennis world very much, but I saw his photos. And I'm like, these are sick. Josh too, one of the best guys in the game. Love his photos always and videos. And then I hopped on over to Netflix and started watching these kind of in-depth sports documentaries. There's one called Breakpoint, and it's about the world of professional tennis. Highly recommend. And there you go. Taylor Fritz, #1 tennis player in America. And it's just like so surreal. I'm like, I swear that kid was just shooting Ohio State basketball / like his own high school teams just a minute ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember seeing those photos. Those were crispy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Talk to me. What role has social media played for you on your like creative kind of journey or whatever?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it's been extremely helpful. I don't love posting. I don't post very often. I would say most of my photos are like film sort of stuff that I do for like more editorial client shoots. And that stuff I just sort of save or put on my website. But I have made a ton of connections through social media that have been super helpful. And some of my biggest clients and people who have sort of kept coming back, I met through Instagram. So I'm definitely thankful for it. But yeah, sort of a love-hate relationship with it. Especially as like now they're pushing reels and not as much like photo. And I prefer photo, so it's not the best. But I enjoy keeping up with other people and my friends and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the next thing will be for people to like share their photos. I know there's going to be an app coming out and it's called like Photo, and they've been testing it and stuff. It's like only for photos, no videos. And people are like super stoked about it on Twitter and stuff. And I know Joe and like Andre Wagner and some other people have been hyping it up. So sort of excited to see what that's like. I think it'll come out in the next few months.
Gotcha. Is anyone like beta testing it all right now? Is that
Yeah. So they have people. People are on there. I just don't have an invite yet. So yeah, that sort of deal.
To be fair to like social companies, like obviously, yeah, go for your views through reels or whatever. Photo's a hard one to do social media for, because when you have all these unique perspective photos just one scroll away on a feed, it's just like, all right, what's the differentiator when every photo is the differentiator? Like every photo is so cool, it's hard to put like your eyes into just one without just like scrolling forever and just seeing like the crazy ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah, then you're like, oh man, I gotta like every single one of these, because yeah, there are, and then maybe you'll get like one bad app one there. But yeah, social media has been great for me. Definitely met a ton of cool people. And yeah, I love being able to like see what friends we have in common, and that's been great for just like sliding into someone's DMs and being like, hey, like let's work together or whatnot.
Yeah. No, I can't speak it enough how helpful the group chat we're both in has just been, just like, you know, rolling up to another account and seeing that, you know, people in the group chat are cool with them. It's almost like another form of verification almost. Like,
exactly.
Are other people homies with this guy? Like, is this guy cool or whatever? It's like, it's cool.
Yeah. Do you have a majority of the group chat like following you? If so, like you get a follow back sort of deal. It's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. How'd you get on Clubhouse? What was your in there?
Clubhouse. Yes,
Where
I just got on randomly one day and like saw like a creator like photo crew chat, and so I just started listening. And then the next day, Jack Gillespie, who lives in Chicago, was like, "Hey, you want to be on like speak on one for like creative success?" And I was like, "Sure." And that's sort of how I got connected with all those people that are now, I guess most of them are in that group chat. I think we've had some turnover, but
yeah. So I was almost wondering, I mean, I've seen you connect with Jack numerous amount of times. I was wondering if there was like an in-person connection, being that you both have roots to Tennessee, but no, the first time you interacted was Clubhouse.
yep. First time we interacted was Clubhouse, and then we've hung out in Nashville and also hung out in New York City. We were both there for, it was over like the weekend of the 9/11 sort of
Yeah.
memorial events, and we got like shots with the lights in the city. And yeah, it was a great night. Yeah, super fun getting to hang out with him. He's super talented and works so hard. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, he's had, I think, a lot of success. So definitely happy for him.
Yeah. He's an innovator for sure, and he's a go-getter especially, and he sounds like he's a great friend as well. A lot of my model on like TikTok and stuff is just direct model to him, except a different city. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So he wants to, he can start making like courses and stuff about what he's doing. I mean, it's crazy.
yeah, he somehow has figured it out. Yeah, super, super talented, and also just like a great dude. Every now and then he'll just like randomly text and like check in, make sure I'm doing well. So yeah, cool dude.
Really, really cool guy, and leverages social media a lot better than me and you do, who are a little more casual, just wanting to see what people are up to and stuff.
Exactly. I'm like, let's see who all's on here. Yeah, I'm terrible about posting, but
I
every
feel
now and
like,
then I'll do it.
well, I feel like you got what you needed out of it. I always love the stress freeness of just like having my website to put my portfolio work on, and then if I
Yeah.
have something cool, I like throwing out a photo out there, kind of like what you do, and you have the connections from social media and stuff. Like you've leveraged it very well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great tool, and especially with musicians, because they really want someone who they can trust. Um, and so if you sort of get a referral by someone, or you have friends in common with other musicians, they're a little bit more likely to be friendly back. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, did you have anything professionally going while you were at school in New York? Were you doing any like commissioned stuff, or were you just all school when you were in your New York?
yeah, I was mostly all school. A lot of it I took probably a year and a half and just did a ton of personal work. I took thousands of photos on the street. And eventually I'd love to make a photo book from New York City, but I think eventually I'd like to move back, and I'd probably need a year or two more of just making photographs to be able to complete that. But I've got maybe 50 photos that are like kind of book worthy as of now. And I think most of those social media or nobody's seen those photos. So I've sort of saved them for a book at some point, but it'll be a while. I do not feel ready for that yet.
Yeah, it's one of those projects that are so fun, but also so stressful because you want it to be the best, and then you get into like the manufacturing side of those things. It gets a little difficult. Like, oh shoot, this is really expensive, and it's good quality but really expensive. But if I go on the other end, the cheaper ones are not the quality that I want.
Exactly. I want someone to help me do it. Someone who's like done a photo book or something and sort of teach me the way.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like that'll be years down the road.
Right. Once you gather the resources too, makes everything a little easier to do.
Exactly. Once you have all the photos. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you moved back to Tennessee. What was your first into the music industry and seeing the value there as a creative?
Yeah, I had followed a couple people on Instagram. One of them is Connor. He is on tour, I think, right now with who is he on tour with? Steven Sanchez, I think it is. Um, and yeah, Trevor Roberts, who's on tour with Lainey right now, and just seeing their work and being like, oh, shoot, like you can sort of make it in the music world. And then I had two buddies who are brothers who opened when they were younger, opened for Luke Bryan, maybe it is, in their CB30 music. And they sort of introduced me to other musicians in Nashville, such as like Thomas Day, who I work with pretty closely. He's probably the person who I work with the most as of right now. So
Yeah, yeah. And that's how has incorporating the business end of things like affected your um photo taking or creativity or whatever, however you want to take that.
yeah, he working with Thomas has been super cool. I think we have a very similar sort of aesthetic or sort of goal that we're going for, and he's super clear about sort of what he wants and the looks that he wants. And so that's been super helpful for me. And yeah, just a great guy to work with. And we also just hang out and kick it in Nashville. Went to Top Golf with him and some of his buddies the other night, which was fun. So yeah, I think just becoming friends with your clients, and it's nice because I go straight through his label and whatnot for all sort of the contracty type stuff. So yeah, it's sort of nice to cut out the middleman. Yeah, as he was sort of at first, but yeah, it's been fun, and we got some stuff coming up. So
I'm guessing that sort of relationship's a little more achievable in the music world. Like, yeah, to be a photographer for someone, you also got to be like almost a friend to them to know their style and what they're vibing with. Or if you guys aren't vibing as a team, like you're probably not going to take as good of photos. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's super difficult to get sort of the final product that you want if you aren't on the same page, or it may be something that you want and they're like, oh, this is totally not what I wanted, as far as like this album cover that doesn't sort of fit what the song, how I view the song sort of in their eyes. So yeah, that's super important. And someone else who I've also sort of connect with very well in the music scene here is a guy named Nick Hall. He goes by Fly Daddy Nick is sort of his music name. He just did a show on Skydeck, and he actually opened for Soldier Boy the other night, which was funny. And so, yeah, just little connections here and there have led to some fun opportunities and great friendships also. So it's been neat.
Yeah. Yeah. How much of your day to day is just kind of attending these concerts and taking photos for them?
Yeah, it's sort of like a weekends sort of thing. My weeks are filled mostly with emails and mood boards and figuring out sort of, especially like figuring out for like an album or something, sort of the theme for the album, and picking outfits and whatnot is sort of my day to day. So mostly behind a computer, but tend to shoot on the weekends a little bit more.
Yeah. So obviously we haven't talked too much personally before this. I only really know you for what you post, which is obviously a lot of photos. More accurately break down what you're doing. It's more than just, taking photos behind the scenes for people. Like that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So definitely a lot more than just the photography side. I think a lot of what I do is I sort of represent the label as a creative director for they sort of book you for an album. So I'll sort of oversee the entire album process. And that allows me to sort of not be as involved doing photo video, and I can more be involved in the planning and picking the right people to execute sort of a larger project. And I sort of enjoy more of a manager type role and sort of getting out of doing sort of the video side of things. I can do video, but it's not my favorite. I'd prefer to supervise and help with sort of that side of things.
Yeah. How was your first time getting that more creator directive role on an album? How'd it go?
Yeah, it went super well. And one thing that I love is doing like the album covers and sort of saying like an artist, and you'll look at all their music and just seeing like a whole row of like all your album covers and sort of seeing the way that they all sort of go together. And some of them are like super planned. And then I actually did one album cover for Come Home, which was a song for Thomas. And the shot that we chose for that cover was just like a random BTS photo where I think he was like catching his breath after running behind a van, and the lighting just like hit him perfectly. And so just saying sort of like, oh, like, yeah, even sometimes the mistakes or sort of the photos that you don't think are going to make it end up capturing what the song or the album is all about. So
Yeah, that's crazy. What gave you the world's a difficult spot, obviously. What gave you the courage and confidence to know that you could do work like this for a living and be fine?
I think most of it was a ton of trust that was put in me from other photographers, videographers. I was shooting like a ton of shows and whatnot. Actually, sort of during like my fall breaks, I did some shows with a band called Laney, and just did like some BTS photo work, and probably wouldn't have been able to do stuff like that without sort of being trusted by others. And yeah, I think sort of that faith in my eye and the way that I view the world and the subjects that are in front of the lens has enabled me to take my sort of creative vision and run with it.
Yeah, that's super cool. What's been the biggest challenge since becoming kind of independent contractor?
Biggest challenge, I'd say the days that you just don't have a ton of stuff to do. You sort of have knocked out all your work and you're sort of waiting for that next sort of event that you have on the calendar. So maybe you have like a Wednesday, Thursday that you don't have anything, but you've got a full weekend. And so those 2 days, it's like, oh shoot, like should these days be like full of like meetings or emails or whatnot? And that can get a little bit discouraging, but usually like Sunday night, I'm exhausted and I'll be like, oh, that was an awesome week. But sometimes midweek it can get a little slow.
Yeah, no kidding. Before I had any sort of retainer work, I ran into that a lot. Just like, all right, do I use these days to like improve myself, or am I just gonna get anxious during these days, or is like anything else could come after this? It's a trap easily to fall in, using those days for the worst.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think, I think I've sort of learned to plan. And at the end of the day, sometimes I'll just shoot out like 4 or 5 emails to different artists. And sometimes you hear back and sometimes you don't. But I feel like if you don't reach out, there's 0% chance that you're going to hear from them. So you might as well take a risk. And I'm actually going to New York City in September, like mid-September, to shoot a couple of shows for Tate McRae and Charlie on a Friday, who are musicians, and then I'll come back to Nashville and do their show here. And that was just like an email, I think it was, to his manager, and I was just like, hey, I'm free to shoot these days if y'all need someone on tour. So yeah, stuff like that comes up, and it's just a cool opportunity. And yeah, and I actually think Charlie is moving from LA to Nashville before long. That might be secret information, but oh well.
You heard it here. Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Funny. That's one of the few interactions we actually had. Is I used to use Charlie's, way beginning songs when he had like below 50,000 listeners in my vlogs because I really liked him. And you're like, who is this guy? And I'm like, I don't know, I just found him.
Cool. Yeah, maybe I did. Did I find him from your TikTok videos or something?
I think you found him through. We definitely talked about it. Not saying I'm like
about that.
Yeah, I'm not like a diehard Charlie fan or whatever, but I did use all of his music in my vlogs back in high school when I was doing that.
That's right, because it was way back when he was like making stuff out of his closet, and I found him and followed him. And yeah,
you probably found him on your own. I think we were just both mutually following him, and we had no idea.
And I like reached out or something,
right,
and asked.
No idea. Yeah, but obviously super talented dude. Kind of funny. His first kind of show he did was kind of like a college tour, and the first college he went to was Iowa State, which is where I live.
Yeah.
Ames. So kind of a random connection stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. What's Iowa like?
Iowa?
You enjoying it?
Yeah. So obviously I grew up in a town of 1,000. So the creative scene wasn't flowing very well there, if you couldn't imagine. So I was always a little bit of the odd one out growing up, obviously, but I always thought I was gonna move somewhere else. Move to Ames for college, which is where Iowa State is. And then like got into the world of like, freelancing, self-employed, building a business, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just like, dude, Iowa's a really good spot to do that right now. Like with what I'm trying to do, like people all around, social media is pretty high standard right now. But in Iowa, there's a lot of people trying to do it, but not a lot of people doing it. So I can kind of be that nudger upward, like, yeah, I can get you to here pretty easily. So I found a lot of success here. It's a super, super easy place to live financially and gives me a lot of room to be able to travel a lot if I want to, which I really like, and gives me a really boring place to live, which I kind of like. I like boring. I like knowing what it's about. I like having the same old people in my life. I really value that. And when I want to get crazy, I can fly out and do that with all my creative buddies. Like it's not too hard for me to go fly somewhere and hang out with people. So I really like it. I could see myself here for a little while longer for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like, yeah, some of these bigger cities, you're like, oh, I'm probably not even the best photographer in my apartment building. And so, yeah, tons of competition. But as far as like the business side goes, if you don't have a crazy amount of competition, I feel like you could market yourself really well.
Yeah. No, that's what it's been. As I've diving in further, there is a lot of people around here that do the stuff I do very well, but still, like, if you're just a personable person to your clients, like you were kind of saying with your artists, there's a lot of people to work with around here, and definitely not as competitive as a bigger city would be, for sure.
Yeah, that is a bonus,
for sure. But it's been pretty steady around here. I've been falling in love with just the day-to-day work. I really like that stuff. But yeah. How about you in Nashville?
How do I enjoy it?
Yeah, can you see yourself being there for a while?
Yeah, I think I never wanted to leave New York, and I would love to end up there again. But I think for this season, it's been great, and it's also allowed me some time to just work on some personal sort of photography goals and whatnot. And yeah, it's actually it's beautiful here right now. It's super hot, but I've been golfing a lot recently, which is new. And so, yeah, I've been golfing a couple times a week. And so that's been fun. Hard to do in New York City. But yeah, I think Nashville is great community here. But I feel like the photography sort of community here is lacking a bit because everyone sort of goes out on tour a lot if you're in this space. So hopefully once Joe gets a little bit more settled, maybe the photography community here will grow a little bit. And New York City was awesome because the street photography community had really grown a lot during COVID, which is bizarre. And so you'd go to like 34th and 7th Street and you'd run into like 3 or 4 other photographers that you know from YouTube or whatnot. There's a guy named Paulie B. He does like street photography stuff. And yeah, you just run into him eating a slice of pizza and taking some photos. So I do miss that sort of aspect of living in New York. Have found that a little bit in Nashville, but yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I look at any creative in a city that's a little bigger and a little more expensive, and I'm like, how do they live, dude? Like, it takes a lot to do your own thing on your own and live comfortably.
Yeah, those street photographers, I don't know how they're making money, to be honest, because I feel like they're out shooting the street every single day, and I don't know how they're making money, but somehow they figured it out.
Yeah,
because the cost of film and development in and of itself is so much. Like, and they're blowing through like 4 or 5 rolls in a day.
Yeah,
but I think they're doing some like editorial stuff. I know some of them have done photo work at like the Met Gala and stuff like that. Which, I mean, that's got to be a good gig.
Yeah, that's something I usually forget about too. Is obviously people are gonna pay more in those locations too for things like that. So it's just a perspective thing. My perspective is too small.
Yeah, like doing fashion show stuff. I got to go to fashion shows. I never got to do photos at them, but just going, it was super fun. But yeah, the photographers doing those shows, who are like contracted out through like Vogue or whatever. Yeah, that would be a sweet gig. I'd love to do that one day.
Is what you're doing now, I mean, this might even be too personal, I don't know, but like, is it sustainable? Is this something you could do for a long time, or is it something that you're in for the season?
Yeah, I think it is sustainable. You could do this long term, but I would love to make connections in sort of the music fashion industry and then move more towards doing like editorial stuff for magazines, or like publications. And eventually I'd love to have like my own studio one day and just be able to have like different artists drop in and do a shoot. That's sort of the end goal. But I feel like I sort of need to build up my sort of retainer of clients before we get to that point. And who knows how long that will be, but hopefully in the next few years.
Well, it's cool to see that you're at least in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? It's not like you're shooting Reels content for restaurants so you can stay afloat, but really you actually want to be working in the music industry doing stuff like that. Like,
yeah, there's a dude named Jeremy Cowart. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a photographer here in Nashville, and he has a studio in Franklin, which is like 30 minutes south. He's got some super cool work. He does a lot of like NFTs, but yeah, he has super well-known artists coming through his studio all the time. I think he's done like Taylor Swift, the Kardashians, like his like roster's just nuts. But yeah, he's just built up sort of a fan base. And when I say like a fan base, I mean like artists who just love his work and who want to keep coming back. And yeah, once you build up that clientele, they tell their friends you're gold, but getting into this space is tricky. So I feel like I've sort of gotten on the path, and now it's just sort of ride it out and hopefully I can stay on and not fall off at some point. So
Yeah. No, your style is what I would consider timeless. Like it just always looks good no matter what. I love true to color photography. It's just so timeless and it's always going to be valuable in the way you obviously take photos. So I don't think you're going to run into any problems with falling off or anything.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I've got a photo actually on my Instagram. I don't know if there's any way for you to like pull this up later or whatnot, but there's a photo of Central Park, and it's of these people like rowing a boat, and there are like leaves sort of framing. And I think that's probably one of my favorite photos I've taken. And so if like if money was no issue, I would take photos like that every day and be thrilled. But right now it's hard to make money doing that. But
Right.
and that was shot on film too, so that's like I lost money on that photo, but it was worth it. That's a favorite.
Pulling a scan like that is a good feeling.
Oh,
right now.
Yes, I got that one back, and yeah, it was just like a walk through Central Park, and I like saw it and took a photo and didn't think about it, and I got the roll back maybe like 6 months later, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I was sitting on that for so long. What if I lost that roll?
Yeah.
I would have been heartbroken. But well, I guess I would never known. But yeah.
I commented, "Damn, dude."
Yeah, that was that is funny. Yeah, that was yeah, probably a favorite photo. Do you have a photo or a video that you're super proud of?
I love not. I'm not. I like photo because it's easy to show my style pretty easy. Like it's like do the experience, take the photo, put your look on it, you're done. So it's always stayed a part of my life, even as I'm kind of transitioning more into like a business building kind of state. So it's easy to have favorite photos. On my website, I have like a stills portion that I have all my favorite ones on. And I got some on my wall right here. So this is Minneapolis when I went on a photo walk with a bunch of creatives, which was really fun. So that one, it's just like a basic skyline photo, but obviously there's so much memory packed behind that. It's really cool.
Oh yeah.
And then this one right here is a sunrise while I'm a 14,000 foot mountain in Colorado. So just any of those more personal moments is my favorite. Obviously, like, it's always the ones that, you don't expect to see anything from are the ones that you're like, damn, I like that.
Like that was a good one. Yeah. Here's I want to get your thought on this. Editing film photos. What's your take? People can get pretty angry about this topic.
Yeah. I personally, I don't get into the systematics of it. I don't think there's any wrong or right way to do it. I would like to see people who shoot film just shoot film, because why shoot film if you're trying to edit them or anything? But I also see why people want to make the littlest corrections in order to make their photo the best that they think they can do it. I know the bigs in the scene edit, like Willem edits his photos and stuff like that. So I got nothing really against it or for it. It's just kind of a thing that exists,
Yeah, it's a question I like to ask people, because about 99% of the people say what you just said, and then there's like that one person who's like, "Oh, you edited your film photo, like,
yeah,
throw away your film camera, just shoot digital."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. My shadows are terrible, or whatever. Yeah. But I need a little bit of saturation or whatever. But
yeah, photography is an interesting scene, a little delicate right now with just how easy it is. People bring in like AI variations to their photos, and people get triggered about it and stuff. But I'm like, dude, those AI variated photos are still sick in their own way. I mean, I would like to know that this is like a more edited piece of art, but I'll appreciate it the same way as I appreciate a photo. I like all avenues. I would like transparency a little bit, you know. That's maybe one
Yeah,
thing I would value.
yeah, that is a great point. It's crazy. People will like add like, they'll have like a horizontal and then they'll use like AI to make it like vertical or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's super cool. And now I think Photoshop has a thing where you can like dehaze your photo through like AI if you're shooting like super high.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it would be nice if they were like hashtag, AI edited or whatever,
Right.
because that way the people who aren't getting shots like that without using AI aren't like, crying in the corner because their photo's not.
I mean, my personal worldview opinion or whatever is the truth will always unveil eventually. So if you're just honest about it from the get-go, or even if you don't hashtag it, if someone asks you, like, you're gonna hopefully disclose that, like that's just part of the journey. I want to appreciate it for what it is, but I would like to know.
Yeah, if someone likes it, they're like, was this AI? They aren't gonna like it probably any less that you're like, yeah,
No, exactly.
I got some help on this thing.
For sure. No, and I like going at art and photography and whatever in general with just like a fun aspect to it and having fun with it. I did like a mini real short about meeting a friend I never met before. I don't know if you remember that. Um, anyways, took a photo with the kid. He drove through Ames, met him for the first time. Josh Horton. I don't know if you've ever seen him on socials.
Oh, maybe I have seen this. Yeah, I probably have. Yeah.
Super cool, kid, obviously, and made a video about it. But the cover was just me and him in a hoodie. And this was just when the generative fill came out. So I'm like, I'm just gonna mess around with this. So I could probably just show it through the webcam. That'd be fine. I drug around the ceiling area and said flowers. So there's like flowers outlining our bodies. It's this one right here. That whole red part is all floral stuff, and it's just like it makes no sense, but I feel like it was just fun to play with, and I love that about that stuff. So I'm not gonna diss anything new. I'm just gonna take it for what it is.
Yeah. Might as well run with it now that we've got it started,
But nothing beats the feeling of just taking a photo, throwing your basic edit on it, and having a memory forever.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. And then, hopefully one day you can put a whole bunch of those together. And the dream is to have a collection sitting on someone's coffee table. So
Yeah. I was pretty urgent to want to do that. So I kind of went like, I want to put out a photo book now. I know it's going to be cheaper. So I have a few of them, and I have 3, I think. And it's a very rewarding, fun thing for sure.
yeah, even just like printing your photography as like just a print there's something special about that. Just like having a physical like copy of something that you created. It's kind of like, I don't know, our version of being like a painter and having your like painting hanging on the wall.
It's the best.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but what's next for you, man?
Yeah, what's next? Working on a bigger project, sort of starting in a couple weeks, and then we'll hopefully be on tour starting in mid-October, and doing shows across the US sort of deal until Christmas. And then after that, would love to sort of restart the process and do the same sort of creative director thing with another artist on work on another album. So that's sort of what's up. I don't think the person has announced that they're doing an album, so I'll probably not mention who it is. But that's sort of what I've got going on in the sort of immediate future. But yeah, concerts here and there, that sort of deal up until then.
Yeah, you're doing it, bro. You're doing it full swing.
We're trying. We're giving it a shot. So
yeah. Do you go by Robbie or Robert?
Yeah, funny. I go by a ton of things. I'm actually the fourth. So I'm the fourth Robert Wheeler. So all the nicknames were taken. So I went with Robbie in high school. So I introduced myself as Robbie or Robert. I'm also called Robster a lot, which I think is funny. And friends seem to like that. So I'm good with anything that you choose.
What do you want your podcast name to be? Do you want it to be Robster Wheeler?
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't. But that would be really funny. I'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Some of my friends would think that was really funny. Yeah, it can be what's my Instagram? Robbie? Yeah, it can be Robbie. Yeah, let's rock with that.
Anyways, dude, thanks for coming and talking. It's finally good talking to you face to face and learning more. I want our paths to cross here in the future. We'll see how that comes about.
We should definitely try and meet up at some point. I'll be in LA, New York, Chicago, hopefully in the coming months. So I don't know if you ever have a reason to be in any of those cities, but yeah.
It's about
come to Nashville. If you want to come to Nashville and shoot some photos for a weekend, come on down. You got a free place to stay.
Let's go, baby. I love that. Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It's been an honor, dude. It's been fun chatting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Take her easy, man.
Alrighty. You too. Hey, have a good one.